Probation Advocate. This is Cindy. May I help you?
Yes, hello, Cindy. My name is Christopher Luth. I'm calling from Marshall, Illinois. And for the past few years, I've been seen by your doctors at Danville. And for the last 4 or 5 years, I've been trying to get a thyroid cancer diagnosis from these doctors. I believe it involves liver or kidney damage as well. In order to further assist me, they've provided me a mental health counseling as well, where I'm on medication for basically PTSD. And to make matters worse, as I'm sitting here at home, I live in a really bad part of Marshall where a lot of my neighbors have been allowed to come to the property and harass us at our home. And I've ran afoul of the law where I'm constantly getting harassed into a jail cell, beaten and assaulted by these people as a joke so that they can arrest me and send me to jail. And this is all culminated now in a court proceeding that happened a few months ago where the judge has reached out to the VA for assistance in providing a medical health diagnosis to the Clark County Courthouse here in town that may assist them in permanently removing my Second Amendment rights from me. And in the past, they removed my gun rights temporarily because I had a swatting attempt at my home. And when I called the next day to report the swatting attempt, the dispatcher actually used it as an excuse to elevate a confrontation over the telephone so he could claim he had been victimized long enough to remove my rights by the judge. The guy's name is Rome, Dr. Rome. He's a mental health therapist there, a psychiatrist, I believe. And the probation office in Marshall is putting together a packet for the judge. And I'm supposed to go into a sentencing agreement towards the end of the month that involves an altercation that happened at my home where they allowed these neighbors to literally drive to my home and start an argument in my front yard so that they could call the police down here and trick me into handcuffs that day, claiming I'd said or done something wrong to that guy. And the bad news is now that the VA are trying to assist this Clark County Courthouse in conducting physical and mental health screenings for the judge. They asked for my signature to do the background investigation with the VA, and they immediately picked up the phone and called your doctors at Danville and literally gossiped and slandered me until they received the determination that they felt that they were entitled to. I have a printout of everything that the doctor has said and that the probation office is going to admit to the judge as evidence. And I was wondering if there's any way I could bring that up there and show it to some of you people and even sit down with this doctor to see what exactly was said on his end, and to question him myself, because as we all know, when you admit evidence from a doctor in a court, usually it's done before the verdict is rendered, not after. So now we have a situation where I'm allowed to be openly slandered by the doctors at the VA in Danville in order to receive an even harsher sentence from the judge, instead of me being allowed to call this actual doctor in as a witness during a trial where I can cross-examine him to parse out and delete some of this extraneous gossip and slander that was actually included in the report that's going to be given to the judge in a few weeks.
This is a lot.
Yeah, it's a lot to take in, and it's been going on for the last 10 years. We've had neighbors down here. I bought a house in Marshall with my girlfriend, and we began to gentrify the home. And my neighbors are not the best kind of people. They're all renters, and they've all just crash landed here. And so they took it upon themselves to begin harassing us at our home so they could play the victim card. And then they went on social media, slandered us with their friends, and created a smear campaign and begged for anonymous assistance in this harassment. And over the last 9 years now, we have seen literally everybody in town has been given the opportunity to literally drive down to our home and create a public disturbance and just be disorderly as possible in order to influence a police response on their behalf at our home. And I've started a YouTube channel where I have documented about the last 6 years worth of this police involvement. And a lot of it involves me being physically assaulted into handcuffs, and then claiming that I've done something wrong. And then,
what is your last name?
Luth, L-U-T-H. My name's Christopher Martin Luth, and
Okay.
my name is basically a slur. They've attacked my credibility in Marshall to the point now where I'm simply seen as a Jew that the locals can just harass into a crematorium at this point.
What's your last four?
1056.
I mean, as far as like a patient advocate taking care of the legal thing, I don't know what we could do. I mean, but you're talking something about the doctors here.
Yes. Yeah. What happened was,
When did this happen? Just recently, or?
yes, this was over probably last month this happened. Like I said, I had a neighbor that came down here and started an argument, and that argument was used to influence an arrest. And one of the conditions that the judge has before he provides a sentence against me is to deliver a mental health evaluation to the court. And I believe that my probation office in Marshall is trying to sabotage that health report by including their own gossip and slander with the doctors that you have at Danville, so they can artificially influence a harsh sentence from a judge without my consent and without any way for me to protect myself. I think the only thing I can do...
I'm not seeing anything.
You probably won't. And that's what worries me the most, is because this was all conducted via a telephone call that a probation officer made from the courthouse to Mr. Romy. I can't think of his name. It's
Romig.
Romig, yes, thank you. And he was the one that actually spoke to the sheriff's department. And I say sheriff's department, her name's Blankenship. She's a female that works in the office at the courthouse as a local bureaucrat. She's got a desk job where she basically harasses everyone that walks in the door that has received a verdict from this judge. And the bad news is now we have allowed this woman to interrogate one of your doctors without my consent or without the consent of a court. And he has provided testimony to this probation office that is or may violate my civil rights.
This is the part this is the only part. Okay, so you're saying Jeff Romig.
Yes. I do have a huge printout that this Blankenship lady made and sent to my home as bragging rights that she conducted this.
She's a sheriff?
Yes, she's a Clark County Sheriff's deputy. She's a probation officer that works for the Clark County Sheriff's Department. I don't know if she wears a uniform. I do believe she does. I think I saw her in a polo shirt with a badge on it.
She called Jeff.
Yes.
Okay, and he gave a testimony.
She conducted an interview with Jeff to ascertain my mental health status. And when she did that, I believe that she probably used gossip and hearsay and a personal bias that she may have had against me in order to facilitate getting a response from one of your doctors that could more easily justify and excuse her behavior, unfortunately. And I believe that your doctors have been included in this.
From him. You think it's from Jeff?
It is. Yes, like I said, I have a printout that this Blankenship lady sent to my home, and it mentions him in the report, and it actually gives a medical diagnosis from Jeff in the report. And in the report, he claims that I am being, what do you call it? It says that I'm paranoid. I suffer from paranoia. And he meant...
You said paranoia?
Yes. And...
Anxiety disorder.
Yeah. And that's the problem. See, a lot of this, I've only spoken to that man one time. And the bad news is when I sign up for these video conference calls with your psychology department or your psychiatry department, what often happens is I'm desperately trying to explain the 10 years worth of harassment that I've received at my home instead of actually trying to work through my mental health problems that I might have had as a side effect of all this harassment.
Why are they harassing you? I mean, I don't... What?
I'm a local guy. I've always lived here, so I'm well known in town. I come from a good family, and a lot of these neighbors that I have, they're not very well connected. I have an issue with about 6 or 7 households now, and they've all come together over the last few years to provide harassment from every single home. And I have a beautiful white Samoyed puppy dog. And this all started because I was walking my dog around the neighborhood. And the neighbors used that as an excuse to claim I was trespassing on private property, or they claimed that my dog was pooping on their property, or whatever it was.
So now you have to go to court.
Yes, I do.
Is that what you're telling?
Yeah. And it's gotten to the point now where the police and marshal will actually allow these...
You're going to be incarcerated for something? Or?
No, I don't think so. I think it's going to be a long-term probation, and they're just going to try to take more money from me.
I was worried about. I was like,
no. At this point, like I said, what they're doing is...
It's just harassment. It's just something to screw up with your life.
Well, it's police-assisted harassment at this point, because we've literally... Marshall's a very small town, and we've only got maybe not even a dozen people. Yeah. Well, you probably know what it's like in Marshall. I can tell you the names of the deputies that's come to my house by name, and we've seen these same policemen over and over and over again over the last 6 years, to where they develop this obscene knowledge of my life. They've been able to invade my privacy and my life to the point now where they can just make an arbitrary decision on the side of the road based on my conduct or what I've said the last time they spoke to me. And the bad news is now these policemen are reaching out to the Danville VA, trying to find doctors that they can gossip and slander with to include them in all of this harassment as well, hoping that they can...
So you're thinking that Jeff Romick played into this and gave them more information?
I do believe that, yes.
Was this with that? And
it's
without your consent?
Yes, and they actually reached out to Jeff to excuse their bad conduct, their poor conduct here. And they're trying to find officials that work for the VA that will come on board and excuse their ethic violations or their poor conduct and slap a seal of approval on all of this mess, claiming that they were justified to act in this corrupt, illegal manner against me simply because some guy at the VA said I was crazy.
Do you own guns? Is that what you're saying?
No, I don't own any guns.
Oh, good.
But they what they did was...
They were trying to get your Second Amendment.
Yes. They actually took my right to own guns away from me last year because...
I was asking. Okay.
Yeah, that somebody came to our home last year, and I got into a conversation with them, and the neighbor saw it and actually called the police and claimed that I had burglarized a home while I was standing in my front yard. It was a false report that influenced a police response at my home. And when the police arrived, I calmly explained to them, along with this other individual, that no, we were just standing out here talking. It was like 11 at night, and I had a dog with me.
Moving away? I don't know. I think enough. Can you move away?
Well, here's the problem. It's always me that's forced to change my behavior or my life to accommodate these assholes. And the bad news is I shouldn't have to move in order to live my life.
Both sides, yeah.
And it's just gotten to the point now where they're literally going to call the police on me as soon as they see me walk outside. and the police will come down here with a wink and a nod and allow this behavior to happen. And then when I call them out on it and get sent to court, like I said, they've reached out to Jeff, hoping that Jeff will put his seal of approval on all of this nonsense and claim that my local police are justified in conducting themselves in this manner simply because some guy at the VA said I was crazy. Crazy enough that the police can completely overlook their ethics or whatever policies they have implemented to protect innocent people prior to trial. And that's what they're doing now. They're using that excuse that I'm crazy or that I have a mental health disorder that the VA has, the VA has said that I have as an excuse to conduct themselves in this deceptive manner. And what I'd like to do is maybe reach out to Jeff. Like I said, they sent me a packet in the mail, and the packet contains Jeff's testimony that he gave to the probation office. And I'd just like to sit down with Jeff personally and see if he actually said that and to get his side of the story prior to when I go back to court. That way we can get Jeff's testimony not only from the prosecutor's side of the table, but also from the innocent man's side of the table that's getting harassed into this courthouse to be taken advantage of here in Marshall. And
so, as a patient advocate side of this, our part in it, you're just wanting me to ask why Jeff Romig got involved, more or less, without your consent.
Well, he did have my consent to get involved because I signed a waiver for for the office to contact Jeff and allow him to be involved in this investigation. The bad news is
sign a waiver? Okay.
The bad news is I wasn't involved. So all the interrogation that the probation office did with Jeff is one-sided, and it only calls into question he only answered the questions that the probation office wanted him to answer. And I never did have a chance to cross-examine or to question the testimony or anything. And they just reached out and probably casually spoke to him over the phone and said, hey, can you help us? We've got some loser in our town. He's pissing everybody off. The cops don't like him. Can you help us put this asshole away? And then from that point, Jeff probably said, sure, I'll do whatever you can. I'll do whatever I can to help you. And that's what I need to protect myself from. And that's why I'm calling today, is to see if we can't reach out to this Jeff person and have him look over some of this testimony that he had given to the prosecutor's office, or not the prosecutor, I'm sorry, the probation office,
okay.
To see if, he was actually telling the truth, or if this was a probationary attempt to, maybe it was an attempt by the probation office to alter the testimony, alter the evidence, tamper with the evidence prior to a sentencing by the judge.
Well, I'll reach out, but
okay.
It
is a lot to take in. I'm absolving you from all liability at this point. This is not your fault, and I am not calling today to find someone to blame for whatever happened in this crazy town. I'm simply reaching out to Mr. Romig to get his side of the story, and maybe I can go over some of this evidence. I have a limited time before I'm to be sent back to the judge. I think in January 30th is when I go back to see the judge, and he actually sentences me for this, whatever it was.
You don't even know what the charges are?
They say I violated an order of protection. There was an assault that occurred on homecoming a year ago. There was a guy that was in front of our home that was doing burnouts and driving recklessly to start an incident outside of our home. And like I said, they all know where I live now, and they all come to my home to harass us. So
okay, well, we'll look into it and see what we can.
It's a long, drawn-out story, and every time I try to explain it to someone, their eyes glaze over, and they start drooling, and I can tell that I'm losing their concentration. Yeah, they're not. And the police are the same way. They just don't want to hear it. They want to operate the way they want to operate. And if I have a problem with the way I'm arrested, I don't get the opportunity to defend myself from a wrongful arrest because I'm a criminal, and that's just the way it is.
Okay.
And unfortunately, over the last 10 years, they've converted me from an honorably discharged veteran that has served in 2 separate branches of our military, and a college graduate, and a furniture designer, a union welder, a printmaker, and they've used a smear campaign locally to turn this man into a criminal. They've criminalized me and dragged me into a courthouse. For the last 6 years, it's been constant litigation where they'll allow someone to come to our home and knock on the front door and incite a riot so that the police can be called down here, and they'll literally drag me out of my home.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
So you've been arrested 6 times?
Oh, more than that. Yeah, from 2018 on, it's been, I would say every year I've had to go to court over something. And normally it's from an attempt to involve me in a mob-style assault and then claim I'm the guilty party so they can pin a felony charge on me and send me to prison as a joke. And they'll allow these petty criminals to descend on our house as a mob, and they'll try to draw us out of the home and assault us on our own property to claim that they've been victimized by this evil man that lives in the area. And they actually think they have this right to do that because of all of this smear campaign and the slander that's occurred against me that has allowed them to make that determination. And it's horrible. It's horrible. I try to explain it to Jeff, and he just, like I said, he calls me paranoid. And then I tell him to take a look at my YouTube channel where I have, 1,000 videos worth of physical assaults, attempted homicides. They've tried to run me over with vehicles. I've filmed people trying to run me over with cars. I filmed a guy tried to drag me out of my vehicle as I was at a park. It's nasty. And they excuse that behavior simply because they claim I'm a crazy man and a criminal. And they're looking for Jeff now, like I said, to put that seal of approval onto their harassment so they can further torture me. Because now they have this verdict from Jeff Roaming saying that, well, yeah, we looked at that guy and he is crazy. So, do whatever you need to do to earmark this guy into a prison cell because he no longer is he's actually a menace to our society here. And it's actually the society that I'm living in is the menace. And I'm actually a black person that's jumping into his own noose here. And like I said, my weird last name, it allows these anti-Semitic, almost systemically racist tactics to occur because there's no way that I can protect myself. And hopefully I can reach out to Jeff and get him to either corroborate the testimony he's given. I don't even know if he's seen the packet that was put together by the probation office. I doubt he has. And I would just like to get his take on it to see whether or not it had been tampered with, whether his evidence or his testimony was tampered with, or even abbreviated by the probation office to the point where they could use it against me.
Okay, well, I will try to decipher this and look into it for you, okay?
Yeah, I apologize. If anything, just have Jeff give me a call, and we'll set up another mental health video conference. And we can do it over the telephone if you like, if Jeff is fearful that I might cause some sort of disturbance in his office or something, and that's not going to happen. But just in case, to protect his safety, I'm more than willing to do a video conference call where we can sit down over the telephone and I can speak to him about this and go over the information they gave me. And I just want to see what the hell is going on here.
All right. Let me look at this and we'll see what we can do.
Okay. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.